Good afternoon and welcome to Bull Market Stock Show. This is your host Rian Hobson, and we're doing another show today that, believe me, the market is going straight to the moon, and that is my big probability that the markets will actually go on a bull run. It's quite a lot of negatives that was happening yesterday. Today it looks like a bit in the green. If I can just look at the market, for example, the euro is up, British pound is up. I look at the FX side, Australian dollar is up by a 0.34%. Even the bond market is also up, especially the bond yields. It's up with a 0.05%. Commodities, the oil is up by 1.25. Brent is up by a 0.9, and it looks all good. Now, there is negatives and there is positives for the market, but just a quick reminder, please subscribe to my YouTube page, and then you can get all my updates there. Now, let me start with the negatives of the market, which happened yesterday. Now, there was a sharp decline in the bond yields yesterday, especially the US 10-year. When it actually went down yesterday, it went actually below the 1.3%. So it was a bit of a worrying factor because the Federal Reserve was saying they need further growth. Also, the story of China, which the news came through this morning about China's CPI data that was forecast at 1.3%. I think it came out at 1.1%. That was the inflation data of China that came out. So it showed there's a bit of a slowdown in the second largest economy in the world. And also the Federal Reserve is talking about further progress. On the other side, you also have the Delta variant that goes on in Australia, which breaks now records. But for me personally, I think the positives will definitely outweigh the negatives. Now, one positive, if you look yesterday at that oil inventories, and that is where the market actually turned yesterday because of that oil inventories that came through yesterday, there was a negative of 6.9 million, and the forecast was at 4 million. So that is where the US inventories is. So there's a huge shortfall in the US inventories. On the other side, if you look at it this way, the US is actually daily consumption is 20% of the world's oil, 20%. So that is approximately about 20 million barrels a day that the US consume. That's 20% actually of the world's oil production. Now, if you compare South Africa, just to give you an idea, if you compare South Africa use about 640,000 a day oil consumption. And that is about a 0.7% of daily consumption in the world. So that is about 100 million barrels a day that the world is actually using, and the US is using about 20% of that, which is about 20 million. So if there's an oil shortage in the United States, which is currently happening week after week after week, you're seeing actually that this number come negative in the US inventories. That will definitely push up oil prices, because that is actually a huge concern for the US, unless OPEC is coming and they pump, not OPEC, but the UAE or United Emirates, they come in and say, listen here, they're going to pump oil, and I think that will maybe simmer the oil price down. But as things stands, the whole story is quiet. So I think there is actually a probability for the bulls on the oil price. Now, on the other side, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, or if you follow that news. The US consumer using credit consuming, that broke records yesterday. The amount was forecast at 18 billion. It came out at 35 billion. That is the highest borrowing rate ever. I didn't see any number that reached that number. So it can say quite a lot of things. It can show that the US stimulus money is basically up, that 1,002 checks and all of those things. I think it's up. It's summer, so they are spending. Excuse me. It's summer, so the spending is increasing. And the people will just want to keep on with the party. And that's why this number is actually broke records at 37 billion. So it just shows you that they want to push the economy further. On the other side also, the US consumer is about 70% of the GDP component of the whole entire United States GDP. So that says a lot. So it just shows you there's more pressure on the United States, and that will definitely push things more up. There's a question that actually comes in here. What's your take on the Dow Jones for now? Definitely bullish there. Definitely bullish on the Dow Jones when it comes to the oil prices, and you look at the gold also, and you look at other industrial materials. I think I'm bullish with the Dow Jones. That is my opinion. Thanks for the comment and for the question. On the other side, the Chinese economy, that is also a positive. The Chinese actually also dropped their required rate, the required reserve rate today. It actually came through about, I think, about an hour ago. The Chinese dropped that rate to 0.5 to actually to boost growth in the Chinese economy because of that number of a 1.1 inflation number. They want that inflation number up to show that there's growth going on. Also on top of that, there was news also that came through out of China. These guys, it's the second month in the row now where this data is actually bullish in China. The Chinese consumer actually pushed out a 2.1 trillion won borrowing. So 2.1 trillion US won they actually borrowed. And the estimate was at about 1.8 trillion. And they actually overshoot that whole entire number. That is approximately about over 300 billion that the Chinese borrowed. So that is actually a lot. There's another one coming through. Interesting. What do you foresee with the future economy situation of the world? What I can see now is that the bulls are out. With all the borrowing that is currently going on, just actually answering Moses' question, with all the borrowing that is currently going on, especially from the Chinese, what I just mentioned now, the 1.2 trillion won, the US economy, the May statistics that came through, that the US, the consumer using the credit card, it comes out about 35 billion. That is the highest ever. So it just shows you with low credit, with low interest rates, they just want the party to continue. So the US consumer will definitely increase spending with all that borrowing going on. So I think personally for the short term, which is now for this month, next month, I think the party will just continue. Please send me the questions that you guys have. I will gladly answer them. Thanks a lot, Moses, for that question. Now that is the positives that I actually that I'm actually taking off. They actually don't want the party to stop. That's why they keep the interest rates low. They are talking about tapering in the near future. But as things stands now, I think the party will just continue and it will just push on further with all the borrowing that is going on. Even the ECB yesterday, the ECB changed their language of their monetary stance, where they're talking about now symmetric 2% inflation, the same as the United States, where they will not cap inflation at 2%, but it can run a bit hot. So which means they actually prepare themselves to push more money into the economy so that they can actually push up the economy to drive it on. So that's why they're actually increasing the language, I would say, for the ECB by saying now they're looking at symmetric 2%. It's funny enough, the euro didn't go down when that language changed yesterday. It actually kept on going. But on the other side, I see the euro is still going up. And I think personally the bulls are out today. There's also news that comes through out of Canada, which is actually quite a heavy employment statistic that comes through later on at 2:30 South African time at the 172,000. Look, that is actually quite a heavy number. 172,000 jobs that were created in the month of June. That is quite a heavy forecast. I hope the Canadians are making it. Look, there is good signs that come from Canada, especially when you look at oil. And oil is a big driver. Oil is a big driver of Canada. So I think it's maybe possible, but please be on the lookout for that news. But as things stands for me personally, I think the bull run is on. I think the NASDAQ, the Dow Jones, Bitcoin, the Australian, New Zealand dollar, those are the currencies that I like. They are actually your growth currencies. For more questions, please, on the show, please just send your questions. I will gladly answer them. And please subscribe for my YouTube channel. Thanks a lot for listening. I will see you guys on Monday and enjoy the bull run. Bye-bye.